When it comes to deer habitat, wildlife habitat, let's say you have 40 acres, 20 acres, 100 acres, whatever it is, there's always going to be a percentage of land that you can't dedicate to all wildlife habitat or all whitetail habitat all the time, especially whitetail habitat. Because whitetail habitat, you have to manage your hunter intrusion levels. You have to manage your hunt strategy more than anything, even more important than the quality of the habitat. So we go to client parcels and people say, we have obstacles that we're having a hard time overcoming. We don't know what to do with it. And I'll list a few of these that people are talking about. And I want you to look at these differently as I talk about them and as we conclude at the end. Sharp elevation changes, steep drop-offs, whether it's going up or down. Folks will say, well, the deer don't use that area. That's a good thing. You can blow your scent into it. You can access through it, alongside it. It determines, and you'll see a common theme here, but it determines an area where deer are not going to be, which gives you an advantage of a hunter as a hunter. No different than you're going up the back side of a ridge, you get to a stand location, you don't improve that side of the ridge because that's your access. Then you get to the stand location, blow your scent back into your access, and now it opens up to deer improved habitat. It's okay to give up those acres for access to get to a point. You know, a lot of times people are bisecting their property. They're going through the middle, they're breaking it up, and they're destroying every portion of their property. They say, well, I need to get to this stand. It's always better to go around. It's always better, maybe you start in the middle of a cabin and you work outward. But bottom line is you're trying to maintain as many acres together as you can. And that's why every parcel can have 50% of its land in a sanctuary or better. Meaning you walk around that area, you'd never walk through it, you never blow your scent into it, you never let the deer hear you on the inside, see you on the inside. But you can always have at least 50%. And the larger the parcel that you have, the higher the percentage you can expect to have. So it's not uncommon for a 100-acre parcel to have at least 70 to 75 acres dedicated to all deer all the time. Every 20-acre parcel should have at least 10. When it comes to elevation changes, you can use them to your advantage. Lakes, ponds, rivers. Heck, some lakes, ponds, you can actually take a canoe across to access really good hunting just on the backside, and the deer have no clue that you're even coming in. But you can blow your scent into those ponds, you can access along the edge of them, and who cares if the edge you can't develop in deer bedding or deer habitat. That's okay, because you give yourself an absolute that you can access against to and blow your scent into to not spook deer and help you protect that core area on the inside of your property. Same with houses, cabins, garages. They're all absolutes. There's a certain level of activity at them. And I can say like a year-round house will have a lower level of impact where you're not walking from that house into the deer habitat. The deer get used to the noise and commotion and smell from that house. It's a lot different than a cabin you use 10 times a year and you turn the generator on and you show up the night before deer season and turn the generator on. That's really invasive. It's going to have a high effect on your deer property, where an actual house where you're there all the time doesn't. It might seem backward, but it's not. It's all absolutes. You can access along, blow your scent into that house or garage or cabin, and the deer are none the wiser. Roads are another one. You know what's cool about roads? Deer are used to a certain amount of commotion on those roads. They're used to cars, people. I mean, it could be horseback riding on back roads, dirt roads. What that allows you to do, kind of like the active house, is it allows you to develop deer habitat, whether it's bedding or even deer travel corridors, just inside the woods off the road. Deer feel comfortable paralleling that road, and it might be just 40 yards in, and you can access along that road, get into a stand just 20, 30 yards off the road and hunt. I had a property long ago in Michigan. It was 8 acres. They did really well by having a blind location in some conifers less than 10 yards off the road, watching a clover sneak trail with a bunch of mock scrapes on it and just blowing their scent back at the dirt road. The deer never knew they were coming in. The deer wouldn't be between them and the road. They would never spook them coming in, never spook them going out. They just had to have a south wind and everything was good. It was a great spot to hunt. And the deer were used to that. It was fragmented by neighborhoods. There was a golf course across the street, houses on either side, small ag pockets mixed in. Very small parcels, and on that 8 acres, they did really well. They even shot a 4-year-old in that situation. So roads can be good. And then CRP, MFL, CREP programs. You got sucked into this government program. Maybe you had to do it for taxes, but a lot of times you do it because you think it's good for wildlife, and then you realize it's a wildlife desert. There might be a few mice in it, but it's not holding pheasant, it's not holding certainly deer, it's not holding rabbits. And so use it to your advantage. Blow your scent into it. Get rid of it if you can, but blow your scent into it. I know Dylan last year had a client where it was an MFL program, and they were in that time period where you can renew. So they got all their habitat work done, woods cut, bedding areas made, travel corridors, whatever they needed, and then re-enrolled it. Where they were handicapped for, what was it, a 10-year plan or 20-year?
A lot of those are 25 or 50. I think they just happened to be lucky, bought the property right as it was coming out of the 25-year.
And that was in that Tigerton area, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, and the Tigerton area is a bad area because it was all, quote, professionally designed, but almost all the access roads went through the food plots. The timber stand is select cut, so there's not a lot of good improvement or deer holding cover on those parcels. Access is poor, food plots are in the wrong location, and it adds up to be, yeah, it's kind of a cool area. It's really overhyped though. There's so many better areas, and it's not, you could have great property in Tigerton, but it's not the area that people think it is because it's, quote, professionally managed. It's not really well managed. It's more habitat managed, not hunting managed. And there's a big difference. Lowest hole in the bucket is always how a property is hunted. And when you have these absolutes, they're a good thing. And they're deerless areas, typically, that you can count on no deer being there. You need to have areas on your property that you count on deer being just as much as you need areas that you can count on deer not being. And that difference is what makes a good property. The trick isn't taking 40 acres and converting it all to deer habitat. The trick is taking 40 acres and converting 20 to 25 acres of deer habitat exactly where you need it to be based on your access, so that you can hold deer within that 25 acres, not spook them, because mature bucks travel very little during the daylight all year long. They travel more than young does, doe family groups, young bucks. Still, it's a 200 to 400 yard window on average, straight line throughout the entire daylight. Now at night it might be a 3 mile home range. That's completely different, but they don't move much during the daylight, and does and fawns move a lot less than that. So you're looking at controlling a very small linear movement of deer, and if you give them what they need in there, you have quality habitat, food that lasts. You don't walk through it, blow your scent into it, allow deer to see you in it, then good things will come. And that's why you only need to develop 20 out of 20, or 20 out of 40 acres, 25 out of 40 acres, 12 out of 20 acres, 55, 60, 70 acres out of 100. You have areas to throw away, and that's not a bad thing. So if you have any of these obstacles on your property, try to look at them as how you can use them to give you better access, blow your scent into, to have stands up against, to make improvements up against, where you know it's more of a dead end for deer movement, and you can count on that. It's a good thing. You know what, all these things, sometimes people have multiple things. Maybe they have lakes, ponds, elevation changes, equals diversity a lot of times, and that's a good thing. So where those sharp edges meet flats, that's where deer will be. Where those sharp edges meet a swamp edge, that's where deer will be. When you have those changes in habitat, elevation, type of habitat, water, it equals diversity. That's a good thing too. So not only can you count on there being areas where you can blow your scent into, access along to, and not spook deer, and it also, again, gives you that opposite effect of where you can expect deer to be. So learn how to use these obstacles to your advantage, but it all comes down to a common theme of access and blowing your scent into these obstacles to give you a great deer hunt. Because a lot of times people are looking at it the wrong way. They're looking at like, man, I can't do anything with this habitat wise. And folks, that's a very good thing, because you're not going to improve every acre of your property, or you could never step foot on your property without the expectation or potential of spooking deer. So learn how to use these obstacles to your advantage, not only for creating your habitat improvements on the inside of these obstacles, on the side you want deer to stay, but also use these for access and to blow your scent into. And so not only can you create better habitat, because great habitat is not a beautiful field or the perfect bedding area. It's the perfect, beautiful field and bedding area in the perfect location. Location is everything. Learn how to look at that, develop 50% of contiguous acres at least on your parcel that you have. That includes your food plots, your water holes, your access, and you'll be a better property manager for it. And at the same time, you get the best use of your habitat and be a better hunter and enjoy and experience a better hunt this fall. Everyone, thanks for watching to the end of the video. I really want you to check out whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, Pure Wildlife Blends. There's so much we have to offer you. You know, if you never buy anything from us or hire us to come to your land, that's okay. We're still going to be putting out all this free content to try to help you out. I want to put a smile on your face. I want you to have a great hunt. But from our food plot seed blends to books to web classes to hiring us, we have lots of stuff to offer on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com and Pure Wildlife Blends. Make sure you check it out. The links are in the description.